welcome everyone along to this Tuesday night on the whistle, straight after the game. Comment below if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're listening on Spotify. And obviously you can get in touch with us on Instagram at @ThingAboutArsenal or X at @AboutArsenalPod. Now, hopefully you can hear in my voice, I'm happy this evening. I'm buzzing into 1, Arsenal 3. Now, I think one of the founding constitutions of this podcast is that this should be fun. Watching Arsenal should be fun. And Jim, I think that was really, really fun. And what a win for Arsenal.
Yeah, I think Arsenal have really done their bit, actually, in this kind of relationship we have, between ourselves and them that they don't really know about. But all the same, they have delivered on that front, because it was really, really entertaining, wasn't it? From the off as well. Within minutes, there was a real attacking intent. And I was very impressed with the approach. And it was an interesting game, because I suppose it's the nature of this new Champions League format that an away game against Inter feels so kind of sort of unimportant before the game. It was a game people weren't really nervous about. It was a game a lot of people were saying we should rotate and it doesn't actually matter if we win, and like the idea of winning it was sort of a bonus and a nice to have. But I'm of the opinion that these games are a real learning opportunity. These away games in Europe in the group stage are a massive learning opportunity, because if you want to go deep into the knockout stages of the competition, you come up against these absolutely horrendous fixtures where, your backs are to the wall and the pressure's on you, and as much experience of that type of fixture as possible, despite the circumstances being slightly different, can only be a good thing for me. And I was really, really impressed by the way Arsenal set up. They were really, really kind of in control in crucial moments, and also defended really, really well at times. Rode our luck a little bit, I think, with a couple of chances in the first half. I think Marcus Thuram and Luis Enrique should have done better with chances they had. But yeah, I mean, overall, there are so many kind of positive points to look back on. I had a great time.
Absolutely. Yeah, so let's, one of the positives I think everyone will agree on is Gabriel Jesus. So overall for Arsenal, this is 7 wins from 7 in in this year's Champions League, a new club record. Well done, everyone. We're now guaranteed to finish in the top 2 of the Champions League group stage, but I think our kind of man of the match, Gabriel Jesus, starting ahead of Viktor Gyökeres, scored a brace, and ultimately, I think this is probably one of his best performances, bearing in mind that he hasn't scored a Champions League goal for 2.5 years, which I don't know about you, Jim, but that blew my mind.
Yeah, that is quite amazing, isn't it? Because there was a season, well, clearly a few seasons ago, where he scored a lot of goals in the Champions League and was an important player for us. Dragged us through a couple of games, I believe, with important goals. Obviously, it's because he's been out, but I think you're right. I don't think it's outrageous to say that it's one of his best performances in an Arsenal shirt, given the context of the game and the quality of the opposition. Now, obviously, Inter are top of the league in Italy, and they don't concede a lot of goals. This is it is hard to overstate how impressive that win is, I think. And I was impressed with his energy all game, actually. I think one of the things you worry about with Jesus coming back from another big injury and still, having to get up to full fitness is, can he do the intense pressing and the kind of energetic terrier-like kind of running and kind of, just bothering of defenders that are such a big part of his game. I remember Pep Guardiola said he was the best pressing striker in the world, and you worry, don't you? Like, if that goes out of his game, what type of player are you going to be left with? And on the evidence of that, it appears that he's going to be able to bring those elements back into his game. I was so impressed with his performance, and some great passes as well that a few people might have done better with too.
Yeah, I think he also had some really good, when he was dropping a little bit deeper, very, very good hold-up play in a way that we kind of need from Viktor Gyökeres. And we will come on to Viktor, okay, in a minute. We will come on to him because he deserves his flowers. But there were a couple of moments that Gabriel Jesus essentially, held the ball up and then made that pass. I think one of them he was completely taken out. But he really was kind of leading from the front today. And I think, as you said, this game, my kind of build up to this game was, I was fully prepared to say that I didn't care about it if we lost. And now that we've won the game, I'm fully prepared to say that this is an enormous result that should send shockwaves through Europe. But, can't take anything away from Arsenal here. Just so much better and so much more playful and creative than the two games that we've watched recently. Just I was enjoying myself. I was really enjoying myself watching Arsenal. Obviously, we've had some discussion amongst the crew on this show about the lineup. Luke will be devastated that we did not take Arteta's kids out of school for a midweek trip to Italy, and we did go with quite a strong side, which very much fits within what I thought we should do. But Myles, Lewis-Skelly starting at left back, Cristhian Mosquera obviously coming back from injury, and then we had Eze in as well. And I think, Jim, I don't know if you agree, but Myles, Lewis-Skelly has had maybe a bit of a difficult time over the past couple of weeks, but certainly grew in confidence throughout the game and made a few very, very important tackles.
Yeah, very much so. And I think criticism of him was warranted. He had a difficult time against Portsmouth. And, that speaks for itself, really, doesn't it? But I think he looked a lot more confident today, and he really grew in confidence in the second half in particular. We were starting to see sort of flashes of the old Myles with some of his passes in particular. But I thought he just looked a little bit more secure. There's maturity sort of coming back into his game, and defensively he was very, very switched on as well, because Inter were a threat, because of course they're always going to be in a game like that. But I thought he did really, really well in standing up to that. Got involved in build-up play really well too. I was pleased for him, because I think we need him confident, right? He is very likely to be called upon fairly regularly coming up, because we don't know when Calafiori is going to be back. We don't know when Hincapié will be back. Calafiori, we don't know how much we can rely on him to not get injured again after getting injured this first time. So he's going to get some minutes, Myles. It's very different to the situation with Ethan Nwaneri, isn't it? Where they've got players in front of them. I think we will see him play a fair bit. And if this can be a launch pad for him to kind of just remind himself of what he's capable of and not second guess himself and just play in the moment, then I think that's great.
And at the San Siro, no less. This isn't him sort of playing himself back into form by playing in a kind of, with no disrespect to the mid-table teams in the Premier League, but he's done a really good job here in a difficult place to go, regardless of the jeopardy around the game and everything. How about Cristhian Mosquera? Because I think there were a couple of moments where, to be fair, I think this is just from the quality of the opposition that we faced today, that they were able to essentially get a shot off while he was there. But I think he slotted in, quite nicely, bearing in mind he's been out for a good couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think I thought he did really well. And again, he didn't look rusty at all. He was someone who came back in looking fresh, looking like he had rhythm to his game. And as you allude to, Inter are always likely to get shots off at home. There was a lot riding on this game for them. They've got Dortmund in their last game, and they find themselves outside of that top 8. So this was important for them to try and get something done. And I think Mosquera mostly stood up pretty well, actually. And also, it's worth noting that he was playing on the left hand side, and he is right footed, so he's got that extra little kind of angle to deal with. And I thought he did a really good job. I was really impressed, and it's great to. It feels like the cavalry slowly arriving when you get players like this back from injury, doesn't it? And
the cavalry are back, but that does mean that someone's got to go out though. So luckily, I think we got away with no injuries this evening, but it tends to be at the moment that we get one soldier back and then one valiantly falls on his sword and they're out again. Another slight change we had in the lineup was Eze making his first start for a while. And I think he had some really bright moments, Eze, and there were a few where I was just willing the ball to hit the back of the net. But I certainly think he had a really bright, lively game, and I think a lot of that contributed to sort of how much more free-flowing our football was, that he was making those movements, but I was just dying for him to get a goal in that game.
Yeah. I was disappointed to see him come off, actually, because I think he is, as people always say about him, he's a moments player, isn't it? So you have to sort of bide your time with Eze. He got that shot off with his left foot in the second half, and he had a shot he might have done a little bit better with in the first half as well. And he does shoot a lot. He makes things happen with quite sort of limited opportunities, it feels. And I think he should be fresh, right? He's not played a lot, so he was someone I was hoping to see a lot.
You've been rested, man. You've been given a lot more rest than a lot of these players. You should be raring to go. Yeah,
and I think Rice coming on was a sign of respect to Inter, because it did feel like they were it didn't feel impossible that they could get back into the game, right? And obviously Rice gives you a bit more security. But I saw an interesting thing about Eze recently, which is that he'd featured in 27 games before Christmas this season. And in the 3 seasons before that, that was 19, 14 and 15 games. So actually, he's probably due a rest based on what his body is used to, and I wonder if there's an element of Arteta kind of keep holding him back a little bit, so that when we get kind of more towards the business end of the season, we've got that Eze back that was shooting a lot and making things happen earlier in the season, because that was some of our best football, I feel, was played with him in that role. So I hope that there is some sort of method behind the lack of minutes that he's getting at the moment. But yeah, I think it ultimately, he's not scored there, has he? But I think he had a good game without having a great one.
Absolutely. And I think for me, if you score a hat-trick against our rivals, having said no to them, that gives you a good couple of weeks of goodwill. I think he's still, you're still dining off of that for me, and I'm happy with that. So the changes were made. On comes Viktor Gyökeres. Now, I was watching, so in the UK, this game was on Prime, so Amazon Prime, and they have this little feature that you can switch on where there's graphics above each player. And
right. I'm not aware of that.
Right, it's almost like watching it whilst playing FIFA, so that the players light up when they're about to receive the ball. You get a little speed thing when they're running. Fascinating stuff. Now, the reason I mention this is because when Martinelli hit that pass into Viktor Gyökeres, I actually noticed Gyökeres making that run and out sprinting absolutely everyone on that pitch. So his little number said 21. Everyone else was sort of hovering around 18, 19. So props to Viktor. You can run and you can run fast. But as you say, what a pass from Martinelli. Yeah. I made a noise that I'd say was inappropriate when Martinelli hit that pass. It was almost sensual. It was a noise I'm not going to repeat here, but what a ball.
Yeah, it was a beautiful, beautiful ball. I will say that I would imagine that the combined age of Inter's 3 centre-backs is probably well over 100.
No, don't take it away from him. Jim, come on.
He did what we've been hoping to see from him in a big game, in a big moment. So yeah, that's flippant of me. But I found it interesting that a lot of the chat I was seeing before that moment was of how Bukayo Saka had a chance to pass to him but chose to shoot instead. And this whole conspiracy theory about how Saka doesn't want to pass to him was kind of in my mind. And then Gyökeres tries to put Saka through. It catches on Saka's heels. And obviously, Gyökeres rifles that brilliant shot into the net. It's like he made him pass to him. It's like he forced him to do it, which is an incredible piece of 4D chess from Viktor there. So I'm starting to believe if he's capable of doing that. Yeah, it was. I mean, fair play to him. It was brilliant in that moment, and he scored from some distance against a very good goalkeeper as well. And you could see it put a spring in his step. He was really, really kind of just confident and full of kind of gusto after that. And it does make me wonder if, could he be an impact player from the bench? We've not really seen it yet, but we've not seen him come off the bench that often.
Do you know what? Can I just pile in on the conspiracy theory? Because I did notice something else, and I've not seen a detailed replay of this, so I'm going to say this with confidence, but with no logic. When that shot hits the back of the net, I think Viktor Gyökeres goes off to celebrate, and Saka doesn't move. I think Saka stands rooted to the spot, and Gyökeres sort of runs off to do a celebration. Now, as I said, I've seen a couple of replays, but I've not analysed it in as much detail as the confidence with which I'm talking about this. But hopefully now you've done the pass, you've had the finish, we can maybe put this to bed. But I think there were some other moments as well.
There was a point where they were smiling and hugging, right?
Yeah, that's fine. And I think the rest of the game, obviously, Gyökeres wasn't on for that long, but there were some moments of good hold-up play. There was a moment where one of the defenders basically mounted his back. He won the free kick. So
got another shot off as well.
That went into Rosed.
It was a shot, though. It was absolutely a shot.
At 70 miles an hour, according to the little graphics that I got on my Amazon Prime. But ultimately, great. Love that for him. One player that we have talked about very briefly there, Bukayo Saka, obviously involved in the Gyökeres goal. But I think, broadly speaking, that was a more lively performance than Saka and a more impactful performance from Saka that we've seen for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I thought he was very busy down that right-hand side. He got some good crosses in over to the far post quite often, but they were decent, and they kept the ball in dangerous areas. I think he is needing a goal, isn't he? And you can see that he is in his head a little bit about that. I'm really sure that will come. He had a kind of tame shot early in the first half, but yeah, I'm not as concerned about Saka's form as some people. Because I think he is still contributing, and he's obviously a lively outlet. But yeah, I think he needs a goal, and then I think maybe a few more of them will come.
One of the goals that I am desperate for him to score is that curling shot from the edge of the box, and I just feel like I've seen that go past the far post so many times, and I was halfway off my sofa when he hit that shot because I thought, finally, this is it. The shot is going in. We're back, and it just didn't. And I think it missed by quite a long way, to be fair. Yeah,
and there was that moment where Jesus played him in, and I forget which inter defender it was. Some old kind of Roman warhorse. Just didn't quite clean him out, but made an amazing tackle. And he probably should have got his shot off a little bit sooner. But he was lively, wasn't he? I think he's in those positions. He's making stuff happen. So yeah, again, I'm not particularly worried about it.
No, he'll be back. Now, one thing that I find interesting about Arsenal this season is how much better we seem to play in the Champions League than the Premier League. Now, how do we fix this? Do we just make every game look like the Champions League? Do we get the hoardings up? And I know lots of that will be how the team's set up against us, and a team like Inter's not going to sit and put 6 at the back like we see in the Premier League. But we do seem to have a bit of a spark, and now that we're guaranteed either first or second, how do we take this form from this is a big midweek win? We've got a big game at the weekend, like. Just do the same thing. Do what you've done tonight and do it again.
I don't know if it is really... I think the competitions are really, really different, and I think you see that more in seasons where we've not been so good, where you're kind of always playing teams who are used to winning. So as you say, you almost never get those low block teams. It's kind of not something you come up against very much. And there are a lot of variables within that as well. Obviously Club Brugge is a very different challenge to Atletico Madrid, and I think we've had a lot of or certainly Arteta's Arsenal have had a good few cracks at the Champions League now, and I think he's starting to figure some of it out. And I'd love to be able to tell you exactly what kind of tactical tweaks he's doing to make that work, but I don't quite have the tactical brain for that. But I do just think there is such an emotional difference between the Premier League and the Champions League that it's very hard to kind of view it like that. I think when we're playing against Man United on Sunday, there's so much context there. You want to win the game in a very, very different way. I just think that I just don't think that you can kind of do that really.
I mean, speaking of emotions, we do have some quotes here from Gabriel Jesus, which are lovely. He's just a lovely man with his lovely eyebrows. And he says, it's a dream night. I always dreamed of being a footballer. I watched when I was a kid. I watched a lot of Serie A. So to be here in the stadium and score here is tears in my eyes because I always dreamed of being here. That's just lovely.
He is just like a teddy bear that's come to life, isn't he? Like, he's got the most expressive face. He's either so sad or so happy, and it's all in the eyebrows. It's a joyous thing to see. To get that get those happy eyebrows is always a wonderful thing, and I'm pleased that he's living his childhood dream, because he's kind of living mine as well. In that
and many,
I get to watch him do it. Like that's enough for me.
And obviously, what a way to bid farewell to the San Siro, mentioned multiple times on commentary. What I will say is that I was explaining to my mum, who was watching with me, that they're knocking it down, and that I was lamenting the fact that I've never been as a fan. Yeah. And she turned to me and just went, "Well, let's go. Well, let's just go then." And I thought, okay. Are you paying for this? Okay.
You doing a little trip?
Are we going to do a little Kirk family trip to the San Siro to watch a game? Why not? I've never been. It's a lovely old stadium. Why not?
I mean, hold them to that. Absolutely hold them to that.
Absolutely. Well, I think a really, really good evening for Arsenal. Don't let anyone tell you that this game wasn't important. All games are important. Okay,
Yeah.
This is not a moot game. We've played really well. We've beaten the leaders of Serie A, who are not idiots. Let's be real.
No.
And I think that gives us a lot of momentum going into the weekend.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's important, right? I mean, we've heard a lot about how Man United have got more rest than us, and that is absolutely a fair point. But there isn't anything we can do about it, is it? You've got to take that momentum, and you've got to kind of. I mean, they should be really confident going into the Man United game. It looks a tricky fixture. It really does, even in the context of what we've just seen. But, you know, there essentially isn't really a better way to prepare for that because, as you mentioned earlier in the show, like the past couple of performances in the Premier League in particular have been a bit flat, haven't they? And I have a theory that it might be because there are so many games. I've seen Mikel Arteta a few times say that they're not actually training that much. Because there's barely any time between games. There's so little time to actually do work on the training ground because you've always got a game coming up. So I wonder if we've become a little bit predictable as a result of that. And hopefully, a really kind of dynamic attacking performance in which some of the players who don't always start have given the manager something to think about is perfect preparation for us to just go at it in a kind of free flowing gung ho way. You said earlier it was playful, and that's exactly what it was. There were times where they were relishing the occasion, absolutely loving the occasion. And we've seen so many times in the past Arsenal have shrunk in that sort of scenario. And Sunday is another game where we have to go into that and just be the protagonists.
Absolutely. We approach Sunday. We've beaten Inter Milan 3-1 at the San Siro, and Man United have spent the week beefing with their ex-players. So there are levels to this game, and I think we are ready for Sunday. So thank you, everyone, for joining us on The Thing About Arsenal. Jim will be back again on Friday alongside Luke for the preview show. So hit subscribe wherever you're listening or watching to make sure that you don't miss that. And get your submissions in for Rate My Seat. This is where you send in pictures of where you're watching and we judge them, especially if you're a supporters group, wherever you are in the world. If you're watching this Champions League match in the middle of the night or in the day at 7 a.m. in a pub somewhere, whether you're by yourself or in a supporters group, we would love to see your pictures. So send them in to @thingaboutarsnal on Instagram, @aboutarsenalpod on X, or you can email us, show@thingaboutarsenal.com. Jim, thank you for being with me on a fantastic night for Arsenal.
Thank you for being with me. Enjoyed it.
Good stuff, guys. We'll see you all soon.